with the new, in with the old. On this episode of 7 on Sunday, I'm doing the opposite of songs that age like milk by throwing myself at the mercy of you, the people's court. Problematic songs that I see the issues with, but love anyways, because I'm a backwards ass piece of shit. I'm kidding! I can't bend backwards, I'm 6'7". Fuck! Times have changed, and I'm not the same creator I was 5 years ago. My views are now a lot more progressive, I would say. But that doesn't mean that I'm always just down to throw the art I love straight to the dumpster because parts of it are considered problematic. No doubt some of these songs actually are offensive in places, so I get why they can be harmful, some more than others. But at the end of the day, my point of view is always going to revolve around separating the art from the artist as much as possible, if possible, and sometimes just straight up not paying attention to the lyrics.
Hide your head in the sand, little girl. Catch you with another man. That's the end.
Threatening the love of your life and referring to a woman as little girl as you do it? Yeah, not exactly a good look from John Lennon, who had a history of physical abuse, even if he did end up disowning this song. Run for Your Life is the closer to their iconic 1965 record Rubber Soul, and it remains one of my favorites on that album, not really for the lyrics, but for the music and the melody. It's all immensely catchy and oddly sunshiny considering the stalker vibes Lennon adopts, but I just can't help myself with this one. The opening line of the song is literally, "Well, I'd rather see you dead, little girl, than to be with another man." Hey, excuse me, Mr. Lennon, I think you dropped your red flag. It obviously doesn't get much better from there. You get 2.5 minutes with an insecure man preaching on his soapbox about why a woman is better off with him and only him. I don't think it was meant to be taken literally, at least from the Beatles' vantage point, so I'll chalk it up to the times being very different and continue on in my life loving this slice of the 60s.
Don't wanna sing like a punk pussy, that seems like a punk pussy. See, when I'm with my friends, I just put on the front, but in the back of my top.
You could fill an entire problematic playlist with Tyler, the Creator. It's a lot. The man has done some crazy, fucked up shit. But the key with this list was picking songs I actually love, so I went with She featuring Frank Ocean. Tyler's rise to fame coincided with this album Goblin in 2011, and while Yonkers stole most of the headlines, this single blows it out of the water. Perfectly landscaped production gives the misleading feeling of peace, with Frank's angelic voice cutting smoothly through a sea of synths and raps from Tyler. Only thing is that this ain't tranquility at all, it's actually a pretty fucked up daydream involving Tyler's violent sexual fantasies that invite in assumptions of murder, necrophilia, and lots of other bad stuff that's meant to drive home the point that he's obsessed with this girl. Icky, for sure. There are much better ways to get that point across, but I can't ignore my love for She. That floating beat peppers in these warm nostalgia hits, especially when Frank Ocean brings home that chorus. Oh my god, that is too sexy! Tyler kills it too, on his verses that is, no pun intended for once in my life, but what I'm getting at is that violent fantasy's bad, this song, against all odds, really, really good.
Second chances, they don't ever matter, people never change. Once a whore, you're nothing more, I'm sorry, that'll never change.
There's cancel culture, and then there's self-cancellation. Kind of the equivalent of bagging your own groceries in the self-checkout lane. Paramore gave the semi-forever axe to their breakout hit Misery Business in late 2018 due to lyrics that were seen as controversial, a decision that proved to be way more controversial than the lyrics ever had been, given that it's a staple of their live shows, and something that could easily get the crowd roaring along. This wasn't my first Paramore song, but it was damn close, and it's always going to be a scene kid belter, packing in vengeful lyrics, salacious guitars to bang your head to, and those pummeling, slamming drums from Zach Farrow. This is hands down a pop-punk anthem for the ages, and it's a shame that they kinda got guilted into pulling the plug. Censoring yourself artistically isn't normally a good thing. The more you stifle and filter your feelings, or try to control Z the past, the less impact your art has. It's okay to let your emotions fly from the pen to the paper to the studio if it's genuinely what you're feeling in that moment. Obviously there's a line, but you know what I mean in terms of capturing raw emotion. Once a whore, you're nothing more, I'm sorry, that'll never change. That's the lyric that certain groups cried out against so loudly, and I hate that because it's such a stinger, man. Hit 'em where it hurts, punch below the belt. It's petty high school drama, not a life and death matter that discredits Hayley's views as a feminist. She wrote this when she was a kid. I got your back, Ms. Biz. Even if Paramore leaves you in purgatory forever, you can't kill an icon.
You can be turning up and turning down, I'm turning in, I'm turning right, I'm turning Japanese, I think I'm turning Japanese, I really think so.
English new wave band The Vapors were a puzzling one-hit wonder of the very early 1980s, with their smash hit being the eccentric Turning Japanese, which I don't think was intended to be racist at all, even if some people think it is in retrospect. Their frontman David Fenton described it as a youthful breakup song, with Turning Japanese being a metaphor for becoming somebody that you don't even recognize because you're so out of your mind in love with this girl. I don't 100% know if that checks out, especially with them dropping the Oriental riff in there. It's definitely a stereotype of Asian culture, so that musical cue, alongside the assumption that turning Japanese was secretly a euphemism for masturbation jokes, definitely didn't help its reputation as music that aged poorly. On the other hand, I really love what the Vapors made. Something silly and colorful. Maybe it is slightly insensitive, but it really does feel like somebody putting their young heart on their sleeve and just bouncing off the wall, not knowing what to do as this puppy love crumbles around them. Jackass got me into this song because of the ridiculous Night Pandas skit, and I've loved it ever since then. There's a stupid naivety that really makes it work, so combine that with a killer guitar showdown and a ridiculous amount of catchiness, and you've got a one-hit wonder I cannot and will not apologize for loving.
So if you wanna piss off your parents, take me to scare them, show them you're all grown up. If long hair and tattoos are what attract you.
Rock music has a long history of writing about underage and or barely legal women. It's something that you'd have to look harder for in today's landscape in the 21st century, but hey look, I found one that bops harder than it has any right to, but could still be kind of weird since it's about a dude in his mid-20s dating an 18-year-old, knowing that he's being used because of his bad boy vibe, but accepting it because she's trying to piss off her parents. Anarbor made some stupid catchy songs, and I'm glad that they still occasionally drop stuff. They typically lean into the pop-punk brand of alt-rock, but 18 was different. It was more of a pop-friendly breed, which isn't a bad thing. It's a very, very big wave of infectious pleasure, actually, and I played the shit out of this song back in 2013. Wah-wah guitar solo to boot, this thing's packing more heat than a campfire in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I adore it, even if some people think it's tacky or misogynistic. It's way too easy to pull out that word, and I know I do it sometimes. I did it in Mood Rings by Relient K, but the difference here lies in the awareness levels, and I think Anarbor tapped into this gray area where the guy knows that it's not him being Mr. Morality exactly, but he's gonna ride the wave in exchange for this quick, intense burst of passion from a young, rebellious lover.
At the exact same time I attempt these lyrical acrobat stunts while I'm practicing that, I'll still be able to break a motherfucking table over the back of a couple of faggots and crack it in half.
Eminem was canceled decades before Twitter even existed. Parents hated his every move, protesters tried to shut down his concerts, but nothing worked as M continues being a star even into the 2020s, Exhibit A being the Super Bowl halftime show. Most of the criticisms are valid. If you hate him, you hate him, but I don't, and M was super influential to me with getting into hip-hop as a teenager. He's one of the best to ever do it, and I decided to not pick something from M's early days because there is a ton to choose from there. I went with Rap God, since at the time of this video, it's not even a decade old. The F slur is used pretty carelessly multiple times over the course of 6 minutes. He says the R slur too, and then there's this really lame bar about battering women like battering a cake. Trust me, I'm not blind on the sidelines. I know it's tone deaf, but I can't help but stand by Rap God as an impressive masterclass that asserts M's dominance and technical skill. Fast bars zip around like a shark in the water with an impressive display of endurance. Every time you think he's about to let up, the squeaky piano beat just worms its way back in to set up another home run for Marshall Mathers. I hate that he falls back on the edgy persona sometimes and even excuses stuff he says, like, oh, I didn't mean it like that, but whatever. I guess he is who he is, and Rap God is a marathon that I'll happily strap myself in for every time.
Called her on the phone and she touched herself. I laughed myself to sleep.
Rocketing in at number 1 on this problematic playlist, I had to go with Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too by Say Anything. Max Bemis is an unnerving songwriter who challenged genre norms for emo, and his sarcasm can oftentimes be hard to read because it's cleverly disguised as sick pleasure. Max unexpectedly retired this hit song from their live set list in 2017 in the wake of the Me Too movement that really hit close to home in the pop punk and emo scene. You could probably see why he made that call, given that this is about phone sex with a young woman who's possibly barely of age. Phone sex, masturbation, power dynamics, religion, apathy, and broken rules. Max Bemis' silver platter hits more like a cold McDonald's bag. but he dives in anyways because he cannot resist the urge to siphon off of this girl's emotions, making himself the villain of this enormously unique song without directly saying it. Either way, it's a cannonball belter that I'll never stop coming back to because the laws of musical attraction simply cannot be broken. Artists are not perfect people. They make mistakes, or maybe they write from a dark, twisted vantage point that doesn't necessarily reflect their full beliefs. And I think Wow, I Can Get Sexual Too is hard to hide from because it's both directly and indirectly tying together so many taboos. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that episode of 7 on Sunday. If you did, then please hit that like button. Keep in mind, these are just my views. I don't necessarily expect you to fall in line with how I see things because everything is a different scenario for everyone. Anyways, if you want to see some more recent episodes of the show, then tap the cards on screen, follow me on social media, links in the description, and I'll see you soon for more on ARTV.